Politicians and some media types have coined the phrase the nuclear club, which refers to those countries that have built nuclear weapons. I can't say I like this term. It has the connotations of achieving a long sought-after membership in an exclusive country club. But instead of playing an occasional round of golf or chatting with other members over expensive drinks and meals, the nuclear club participates in only one sort of activity. It engages in what Lester Pearson of the United Nations coined as the balance of terror. This is a tenuous piece that exists because we are all terrified of unleashing this destructive power. It has long been the tenet of sane people in every government that nobody wins a nuclear war. If you fight at all, not only one's own nation, but the whole world loses. Now, the reason I bring this up is because the pursuit of nuclear weapons is just one recent, terrifying example of the pursuit of coercive power in our world. We have certainly seen other examples of the quest for coercive power. In fact, in these recent days, parties and politicians have been seeking to use our current crisis to gather more political power to themselves. In Jesus' day, the Roman army represented the peak of destructive power in that era. As a result of training, tactics, and weaponry, the Roman army had succeeded in conquering the known world and bringing all its subject peoples under a Pax Romana, the peace of Rome, that existed because of the power to kill and destroy. Those who lived in the area the Romans had dubbed Palestina, like many of the subject peoples, dreamed of a time when they would have the power to drive the Roman army out. They wanted Rome out, but they predicated their new peace in the same way Rome had, by the power of the sword. Into this time came Jesus, who among all the other things that he did, spoke of and pointed to a very different type of power, where the leaders of Rome would come into the city riding on a prancing white war horse, surrounded by legions of armored men in glinting shields and spears, a great show of force to cow the subject people. Jesus came into Jerusalem slowly plodding on the back of a donkey, surrounded by people who had never set foot and would never set foot in the estates and palaces of the powerful. In our gospel verses for today, Jesus' sense of power stands in stark contrast to the ideas of power of Pilate and to the world in general. To Pilate, Jesus says little. He makes no attempt to prove who he is. There is no bravado or posturing. In answers to Pilate's questions, Jesus simply says, "Your own words have said it." In our verses from Philippians, the writer uses an ancient hymn to describe Jesus' way of power. Jesus is exalted in this hymn, not because of the power to heal, nor the power to raise the dead, not even because of the divine connection he had with his Father, but because he emptied himself. He humbled himself. He did not consider his equality with God something to be grasped and held on to. He took the form of a servant and walked the path of obedience even to his own death. The thing about force, about coercive power, is that it inevitably corrupts those who live by it. The 19th century British politician, Lord Acton, is the author of the most common statement on this. He said, "Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. When one seeks, even with the best intentions, to force other people into doing the right thing, it inevitably ends in tragic consequences. As C.S. Lewis once quipped, there is nothing quite so dangerous as someone out to do something for your own good. We can never win against the tyrannical forces and systems of this world by simply becoming tyrants in our own right. All we do is bind ourselves under a new system of coercive power that will eventually enslave even those at the supposed height of power. At least 6 times in the Gospels, Jesus says, "He who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted." He also said at least 7 times, "If anyone would be my disciple, let him pick up his cross and follow me." This includes those who might exalt themselves even with the best and purest intentions. Clearly, Jesus not only taught this, but also showed this, especially in the last days of his earthly ministry. So, now what should we, as imitators of Christ, do about what we've just heard? I don't believe that this is simply a call to be humble, although that's a good thing in and of itself. I think this is more about not looking to your own interests, but to the interest of others, as the writer of Philippians says in another part of the letter. It is not about forcing others to do what we believe is right for them, but rather freeing them to discover their own best impulses and their own best expression of them. It is freeing them to be open to the leading of God's Spirit that may lead them in ways that we would never have even imagined. Here, we can find true power. Not the power to destroy or force others to do as we want, but the power to help others. The power to see others clearly and thus understand them better, empowering them to see themselves more clearly as well. This is the power that comes not from gathering things and power to ourselves and living in fear of others, but in giving and living in service of others. It comes from running the risk of letting go of the coercive ways of power in this world, and in so doing, encourage others to do as well. This is power that will change the world, as much as nuclear war might have been, but not in death, destruction, and misery, but in life, in building up, in making new, in ushering in the ferment of creative power that is the realm of God. So it is in losing our power that we gain the power to act rightly. It is in dying to our selfish love of force that we are born again as those who truly live and can give life to others. May we, in these coming days, seek to do this. Amen.